Hello and welcome to a fresh hour of CBS Sports HQ. I'm Hakeem Dermish, and look who's in the house. CBS Sports combat analyst, host of the State of Combat podcast, Brian Campbell. We've got more live sports, my friend. UFC delivering with its third event in 8 days. We start with the main event in Jacksonville, Alistair Overeem against Walt Harris in a heavyweight bout. And here's how it went down. Of course, you know the tragic backstory for Walt Harris, fighting for the first time since the death of his stepdaughter. Now, Walt Harris had a chance to win this in the first round. It goes to the second round, and Alistair Overeem earns a second-round TKO, BC.
You have to feel for Walt Harris here. He came out guns a-blazing, heavy heart, but heavy hands in that first round. He made one mistake, and you got to give the veteran Alistair Overeem credit. He took advantage. He was plotting. He finished him, ran out that gas tank, and in that second round, it was all she wrote. A tough, emotional loss for Walt Harris, who was on the verge with a win of really knocking on that title picture in the heavyweight division.
46th career victory for Alistair Overeem. He said he wanted to finish. He got to finish. The Demolition Man turning 40 on Sunday. So give it up for Alistair Overeem. A respectable fight here, respectable finish. Plus 135 as the underdog wins via second round TKO. Under 2.5 rounds, minus 175 there, as Alistair Overeem takes down Walt Harris with a second round TKO. Let's get some reaction here with BC, and let's welcome in UFC Hall of Famer Rashad Evans. Overeem, Harris. Rashad, from your vantage point, we're watching here in studio, and what we saw was the fact that Walt Harris had a chance to win this fight in the first round. What did you see?
Yeah, he did. You know, he came in with a lot of heavy shots, and they were landing pretty clean. You know, he looked really good. But that emotional alchemy that he was working with, you know, that transmutation, trying to turn that pain into something positive is a really hard, complex thing to pull off. And he was pulling it off, but he got a little overzealous. And Alistair Overeem seized the opportunity and got on top. And when Alistair got on top, that's when the fight was won, because what he was able to do was tire him out. And then when it got to the second round, the big ticket had no power in his hands, and it was a sit and duck for Alistair Overeem to just land his big shots, and that's what happened.
And let's not forget, Overeem was hurt in that first round. He was bleeding, but he found that one little window of opportunity, and you have to believe that Walt Harris is going to kick himself for years to come, going for a front kick of all things, loses his balance, get pushed over, and Overeem able to sort of lean on him, lay on him, do all those little veteran tricks that pull at your gas tank. At the end of the day, when Harris came out for that second round, just did not have anything left.
Rashad, was it too of a frenetic pace for Walt Harris there in the first round?
You know, I thought he fought really well, and I thought that was the kind of pace that he needed to fight at, because he's a faster fighter. You know, you don't want to fight a slower pace with a guy like Alistair Overeem, because that works in his wheelhouse. But I thought he was fighting a perfect pace. I just thought that when it came to the in close fighting, I thought he was overmatched, and it seemed that that's exactly what it was, because that's where he was able to lose the grappling situations in close, and that's where Alistair Overeem was able to get on top and then drain that gas tank. Once that gas tank was drained, it was not going to come back. There was not enough minutes in between rounds to bring back Walt Harris' gas tank after what Alistair Overeem did to him in that first round.
We heard Alistair Overeem after the fight was over. What's next for him?
Well, you have to love, first of all, the sportsmanship to pick
Yes.
Walt Harris back up. We were all cheering for Walt Harris, and you had to believe that Overeem as well, and deep in his heart. But what's next for him is he never really went away. You know, don't call it a comeback. The 39-year-old, now 40 later tonight. He's been here for years. He's still lingering. Look, the heavyweight division, you can age and still hang around. And I'll tell you what Overeem still has. The ability to finish a fight at any given time, and also what we saw, the veteran tricks tonight. You don't want to call him a gatekeeper just yet, because he showed you on this night. Unlikely, maybe he circles around for another title opportunity, but not impossible in this division where you see a lot of turnover.
How about the last two events? Get up for the old guys, right? Glover Teixeira, now Alistair Overeem turning 40 on
Us
Sunday.
over 40 guys,
Yeah,
all right? Or me,
right.
sorry, I don't want to.
I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet, BC. All right, co-main event, Claudia Gadelha defeats Angela Hill via split decision. Rashad, you liked Angela Hill in this fight. Did you see it that way? Because it was a little controversial there at the end.
Yeah, I did. I thought Angela did enough. You know, I thought that she landed the cleaner shots. You know, I did think that Claudia brought a lot of pressure, but I thought for the most part, when it came down to just land those cleaner shots and who had the messier face at the end of their fight, I had to give it to Angela. I thought she did the most damage. Claudia did land some good combinations, and she did look pretty sharp on her feet. And you can see the growth in her style working with Mark Henry and Ricardo Almeida. But I just felt as if like Angela was a faster fighter, and she lost. She got robbed tonight, I think.
Well, Rashad, I got to follow you up here and say this is the common debate that we often see in combat sports, whether you're talking boxing or mixed martial arts. You don't score damage in the end. You score it round by round. And while from an emotional standpoint, Angela Hill was the better fighter tonight, you can't disagree with that. She bloodied Gadelha's face. She knocked her down. She really showed you this tremendous growth, which was a 3-fight win streak coming in. But it all comes down, in my estimation, to that third round. 2 of the 3 judges liked a little bit better the big punches that Gadelha was landing. It's a coin flip round. But at the end of the day, if you don't finish it, you leave it in the judge's hands.
Another split decision was Dan Ige over Edson Barboza. BC, I'll start with you here because you take a look at that fight, and it was great. Some wondering if Barboza got robbed.
Another fight that certainly could have gone either way, but you have to love what Dan Ige did in this situation. His 6th straight victory, improving to 12-1, by the way, since 2016. And he got tested to do that. We all wondered what Edson Barboza would look like moving down in weight at age 34. Was this a desperation move? Well, he certainly came out and showed you what had been his calling card up to this point. Those violent strikes. Ige got dropped. He got bloodied. But you gotta love the fighting spirit of Dan Ige. This fight was up for grabs in the 3rd round. And Akeem, I thought it came down to the man with the deeper gas tank, who was more aggressive, who brought the fight to the veteran. I was more than fine with Dan Ige getting a close win here.
Rashad, Ige's now won his last 6 fights. Did you see it that way? Ige winning split decision over Barboza.
I did, but it was terribly close. You know, I thought Edson Barboza landed some really clean combinations. His kick was on point, and I thought he looked better than he ever looked. That he has looked since he went down to ATT. You know, I thought he looked really sharp. His motion looked good. He had really good energy for going down to 145, and he looks like he really belongs in that weight class. But I think tonight we've seen Dan Ige grow up right in front of our eyes. You know, going against a guy like Edson Barboza, that's a huge accomplishment to stand there with him for 3 rounds and to even get a win over him like that, just to endure the punishment that Edson Barboza gives out and then find his way to win in the spots that he did. And Dan Ige won in this fight that I didn't think he was going to win in, which was on his feet. So hats off to Dan Ige. Both of these guys win, in my opinion, tonight.
BC, what was something else that stood out to you on fight night?
This was another great night of fights. 3 cards in 8 nights, as we know, for the UFC. But the action, the intensity, Song Yadong and that opening featherweight bout to kick off this card was really looking to knock on that door and be the next big thing. At only 22 years old, this was his 22nd pro fight. You talk about getting off to a busy start. He faced a red-hot Marlon Vera, a guy who brought it late in this fight, made it close on the scorecards. But Song Yadong, under that Uriah Faber camp at Team Alpha Male, really looking to be the goods as we progress in that division.
Rashad, did that also catch your eye, or was there something else that stood out to you on fight night?
You know, out of all the fight nights, I've just been really proud of just how the fighters been. You know, I think they really answered the call when it came to just, you know, being the entertainment that the world needs right now. And they've really went out there and they fought their hearts out. You know, guys and women and whoever, they've fought out of their skill set just to, you know, just to go out and put on the show for the people. And they're fighting like the world is watching. And hats off to them, because we really are.
3rd event in 8 days, certainly a success for UFC, certainly a success for sports fans. It was exciting for someone like me to get back and wager a little bit. That was fun to kind of feel alive again.
Exciting to get me into the studio here.
It's good to have you. It's good to have you, Stu. You're royalty. So whenever you're here, we treat you right? We take care of you, get you some food. When Rashad comes in, we'll get him squared away as well for the Hall of Famer.
Oh, Rashad eats clean, all right? You know, you're not going to be giving, you know, come on.
Well, we'll get him some healthy stuff. We'll get him some healthy stuff as well. All right, the big question here is we've had success, 3 events in 8 days. What is next for UFC? We know what's on the horizon.
Well, the one thing that they pulled off here and showed us what you can do is you can successfully pull off an event, being the first pro sports league to really step out and do that. That was important. Yes, we had one fighter, Jacare Souza, test positive, but no major hiccups along the way. So the key question is, how quickly can UFC expand by states? Right now, of course, Arizona and Florida, the only 2 states that are allowing pro sports. You know, UFC, which bases itself in Las Vegas, is looking to get the UFC Apex facility off the ground and running. It's next door to their Performance Institute. In a weird way, UFC can almost create their own biodome there in terms of keeping fighters that can train next door, cross the street, and fight. If they can get the Nevada Commission, the state there, to sort of change and open the doors here, Hakeem, you have to believe UFC is going to get back on a weekly schedule. We'd heard UFC President Dana White say they could be caught up by as soon as June.
Wow.
The next card is 2 weeks from this night. We'll see what happens.
Rashad, what do you want to see next here?
Well, I think this Fight Island is going to get underway. You know, you have a lot of international fighters who are kept out of the game because they can't get into America. And with the circuit as it is right now, you only have so many fights that you can do with in America because there's only so much talent here in America. So you're going to end up bleeding out the talent that you have in America. So you have to bring some of those international fighters in. So I think that Fight Island is something they're going to focus on and work on getting some of these big matches together because that's where the talent is. You know, you have the Habibs, you have the Conor McGregors, and that is going to be on International Fight Island.
Yeah, I'd love to get to Fight Island.
Where is this island? Come on.
Let's find it.
Send me a location, please.
Rashad, BC, great work breaking down Fight Night here on CBS Sports HQ. You want more from Rashad? You want more from BC? Of course you do. Check out the State of Combat podcast each and every day. They'll take a deeper dive into UFC Fight Night. Again, the third event in 8 days. The State of Combat podcast. Download and subscribe today. Live coverage now. Dana White, the UFC president, at the podium. Listen in.
Exactly how you would expect him to feel right now. You know, I think probably take him an hour to sit down and calm down, process what happened, and then when he goes back and watches the tape of the fight, he'll know all the mistakes that he made.
I know you're not necessarily the sentimental kind of guy sometimes, but hey, man, the week is in the books. 3 shows are done. You got it done. I mean, this is history, right? I mean, this is the first sporting organization back to what's the feeling for you right now?
Feels good. I'm happy to have it behind me. I wanted this week to be over, and was successful in every way it could be successful. I feel great about it. You know, more importantly, you know, nobody's sick. Nobody's sick. Nobody's gotten sick, and hopefully that's the case. You know. There's no guarantees in life, but hopefully that's the case when we all go home. It was a great event. It was a great week. And I think we picked the perfect place to do it, too. This town was perfect for it. Like I said, the governor and the mayor and the athletic commission and everybody was great. This arena was incredible. These guys were great to us. I don't know what your experience was out in Jacksonville, but everybody was nice. It was great. The food was awesome. I mean, I just couldn't say enough good things about Jacksonville and the experience here. So I'm glad we did it here first. So I'm ready to go home, though.
I think we all are.
Yeah.
You're on a panel with some pretty important people in the rest of sports as well. I'm curious, have you had conversations with the other sports leagues? Have you had any advice to offer them other than come to Florida?
Some people have had the, we've sent the document to, but it looks like, first of all, when you look at the people that run these other sports, these are all really smart guys, and nobody knows their business better than they do. They know what needs to be, you basically just, first of all, this arena is what's the thing that they have, Venue Shield, is this project that they have where they come in and they literally clean the venue from top to bottom, which is huge. Then there's things like, just little things, the details you wouldn't think about. I mean, you saw the guys spraying down the Octagon, wiping down the Octagon between every fight. Like our headphones used to just be laying on the thing. Now they're in these packages that say that they've been sterilized. And all these little types of details that those guys would know better about their business than any of us ever would. That they have to literally sit down and break through item by item on what they need to do and how they need to make it as safe as they possibly can. And they'll figure it out. These are all smart guys. Yeah. These are all smart people that are running these companies.
And there was a ton of attention on these 3 events and the safety and all that. All this protocol that was followed this week in Florida, is that essentially the way you see UFC events being done, like at the Apex, on Fight Line, all the same type of protocol?
Yeah, this is what we're going to do. Listen, obviously, you guys know me. You've dealt with me long enough, When we're doing what we're doing and you're just taking unnecessary punishment, you know what I mean? you know I'm gonna fucking snap eventually, and I do. But you know, we worked hard. We worked hard to pull this thing off and to get here. And you know, nothing means more to me than the safety of everybody that was involved in the event. You know, not just with COVID-19, but you know, fight that wasn't stopped soon enough, or you know, and all these type of things. So every time we finish an event, you know, I want everybody to go home safe, and it's not any different now with the COVID-19 thing. And we will do everything in our power. We will spend the money. We will get the best, the brightest. We'll talk to doctors and, you know, experts in the field and to figure out how to beat it. One of the things that I always do is I believe that nothing is impossible. Everything can be done, especially in 2020. And you just have to be willing to work hard enough, spend some money, and come up with solutions. And that's what we did this week.
Looking to the future, May 30th, you were hoping to have in Las Vegas. Any updates on that, on where we stand? Is May 30th going to be able to happen at the Apex?
I don't know yet, but yeah, that's what we're working on. That's what we're hoping for. And once May 30th is on, we're rolling now. If we can't get May 30th at the Apex, it's going to be super disappointing, but we will go somewhere else.
You'll definitely have a card on May 30th.
100%.
And then we noticed tonight in the advertising for UFC 250 that had been announced for June 6th. Now it just says coming in June. So is that not happening June 6th, or do you know what's going on with that?
What did they do?
Just said coming in June. It used to say June 6th.
Yeah, well, first of all, nothing has mattered to us but this week right now. This is all we care about. Getting through this week. We go home. We start getting back in the office next week. You know, all of our employees are being tested right now. So we're testing the whole company. And then we're going to get everybody back to work. And the matchmaking meeting is Tuesday. So we'll get our shit together next week.
Sounds good. Well, I'll ask you one anyway. Last one for me. There was one fight that guys are going back and forth with each other on social media. That's John Jones and Francis Ngannou. Both seem to be wanting that fight. They say it's a big money fight. UFC's got to bring the big money. What do you think? It seems to be getting fans pretty intrigued. Is that a fight that you at least see as possible?
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. I mean, I don't know if those guys really want that fight. You know what I mean? Let me tell you this, and I'm not saying this is the case with these two. You see a lot of talk online and whatever it might be, but actually making fights is a whole nother ballgame.
Just a lot of the talk about these three events have been there's no other sports on. From what you've seen, do you believe you've gained new fans who hadn't watched the sport before?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, hopefully that's the case. That would be awesome. But listen, it wasn't even about that. It was about, you know how strongly I felt that we could do this. So it's really what it was about for me.
Eddie Hearn just announced his plans to bring boxing back in the UK. I was reading his plan. I have to say it seems very similar. Hotel, test the fighters when they arrive, socially distanced, digital media days, stuff like that. Yeah. Is he one of the guys you've spoken to about getting events back on?
No, he and I spoke, but you know, it was more just like he said, "You're the night of the fight," so that kind of stuff. No in detail talking.
Cool. I know you said the matchmaking meeting is on Tuesday, but in regards to Fight Island, do you have an idea of who you'd like to see feature on that card, and do you have guys training for that date? Or
no, I have no idea yet. Right. We'll figure that out. I mean, guys are training. People are training right now. People want to fight. So I don't see an issue making a fight with anybody right now. And other than Rose, there might be others. So this isn't, you know, I don't know if this is a fact, but I don't think there's anybody else that's brought up any issues about fighting right now.
Okay, and last one from me. I know you said you prefer the crowds and you prefer the energy they bring. But having seen some of the fights we've seen over the past week, any argument that somehow having no crowds could negatively affect a fighter is out the window, right?
Yeah, well, that was out the window anyway. I mean, I've been doing The Ultimate Fighter, you know, for 15 some odd years. Well, there we go. I've been doing The Ultimate Fighter for 15 some odd years with no crowds, and obviously the Contender Series. And some of the best fights you'll ever see are on there. What was cool about tonight that was different for me, or this week, I mean, and for you guys too, was fights of this level with no crowd, you know. Big difference.
Dana right here. A lot's obviously been made of Walt's situation, but of course Alistair Overeem won the main event. What did you make of his performance? I feel like the last 10 years a lot has been made of his chin or lack thereof, according to fans and pundits, but you saw he took a lot of damage in that and still came back. So what did you make of him?
That's crazy you say that. I said during the fight, I was like, damn, when did he get a super heavyweight chin? And recovered. Yeah, he looked good, you know.
And then there were several split decisions on this card. A lot of argument online. I think it was the co-main event between Angela and Claudia, the Song Yadong and Vera, and then one more escapes me. But did you agree with all of the split decisions on there?
I gave Gadelha 1 and 3. I missed the Vera fight because I was talking to somebody. And then, what was the third one? What was the third one?
The Ige Barboza.
Who?
Ige versus Barboza.
Oh, yeah. I had Barboza winning that fight.
What did you make of how do you think Barboza looked at featherweight against?
He looked good. He looked strong. He looked strong. But Ige was, you know, you think about it, that's actually his weight. He looked tough. He looked good in his first real nasty fight against a guy who's been around forever and a guy who came in great shape, looked good. You know, Barboza gets in there and starts kicking and punching, and he starts to gas midway through the second, and he did not gas tonight. He looked good, especially for a guy that cut that much weight.
And then earlier on the card, I don't know if you heard, but Nate Landwehr was screaming your name in the middle.
Oh, I heard it. Yeah.
Have you spoken to him?
There's like 6 people in there. I heard him screaming. Yeah, that guy was a nut. That was a fun fight. It was a fun fight, and that guy was fun.
And then one final one. Arizona Governor Doug Ducey announced all sports are going to be open, all professional sports. If you can't get the Apex,
That's where I'll go.
It would be Arizona?
That's 100% where I'll go.
Thank you.
Yep.
Dana, this week on Fox, they've been promoting the NASCAR as being the first big live sporting event.
Have they really?
What are your
Eric
thoughts
Shanks, you dirty bastard.
and not mentioning the UFC already having 3 shows before then.
Well, Shanks, you know, the president of Fox called me, said congratulations, and somebody had to. So, you know, I would call it more of an ESPN versus Fox thing than a UFC slap in the face. I have an incredible relationship with Fox, and you know, you never have and you never will hear me say a bad word about Fox. Without Fox, there is no ESPN, and those guys were very, very good to us for the entire relationship, and I loved the time that I spent at Fox, and you know, yeah, it's all good.
With this week being over now, a historic week in UFC and MMA history, I would say. How would you rate this 1 to 10?
What's the question again?
This week, how
Yeah.
it's gone with the 3 fights.
Oh, yeah.
How would you rate this as 1 to 10?
What's best, 1 or 10?
10.
It's a 10.5. It was awesome. The key to this week was, you know, not a lot of people testing positive for COVID-19, and or nobody getting sick, you know, during the week. So it was a home run, and yeah, I couldn't be happier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dana, you mentioned earlier in the press conference a lot of talking on the internet. What's next for a guy like Colby Covington, and what's been the biggest roadblock for getting him booked for a guy like Tyron Woodley?
Yeah, like I said to John, I don't know yet. You know, we got to get home. All I've been thinking about is this week and getting this week done and getting this one under our belt. And then we'll go back. And then now I got to get the thumbs up for Nevada, which is hopefully, we're doing this next fight in the Apex. Because if not, then, we'll be working on Arizona next. So I just want to. I don't know. I'm not even thinking about that stuff right now.
Gotcha. But just curious, last week GSP was announced into the Hall of Fame. Was wondering over the past few months there was any kind of conversations with him, trying to bring him back for another fight if he had any interest in any fighting, or he was completely checked out?
Yeah, no, I don't think, we haven't talked about him fighting at all. I called him that night to let him know that he was into the Hall of Fame. He texted me back later. But we haven't talked about fights since his last fight.
And lastly, read the San Diego Tribune article about your son. Congratulations. Didn't realize you were an avid surfer. Does this mean that Fight Island's going to be somewhere like on a beach with waves?
My surfing days are way behind me. I don't mess with that anymore. But I love surfing. I have a surf show coming out. We start filming here pretty soon, actually, in the next several weeks. It's going to be on ABC. I'm happy for my son. San Diego's awesome, and he loves football. He's super passionate about it, and his first PR.
Thank you.
He likes the media better than I do. He's had a good run. Good? Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Dana White there, always a media darling, putting on a clinic there. As we take a look at the fight night results, overall really a successful night once again for UFC. The main event, Alistair Overeem defeats Walt Harris, second round TKO, couple split decisions, couple unanimous decisions. Dan Ige defeating Edson Barboza via split decision, one of those that stood out to us on this night. All right, back here with CBS Sports combat analyst Brian Campbell. We listened to Dana White. Couple things that stood out to us. Fight night in a couple weeks. If not Las Vegas, we're headed to Arizona.
Well, we know only two states are legalized right now, Florida, where the fight card was tonight, and the state of Arizona. Close proximity, of course, to the UFC's headquarters in Las Vegas. Dana's saying the show will go on. UFC's next card will be a fight night event on May 30th, and they're planning that giant UFC 250 pay-per-view for the following weekend, which is, for June 6th, the following weekend. All we know at this point, Amanda Nunes is going to defend her women's featherweight championship against Felicia Spencer. But you got to love what Dana and company have been doing. Look, they've endured rightful criticism at time in terms of the bombastic nature of pushing things forward. But these 3 fight cards in 8 nights, massive success. And now you have getting back on track. The only game in town until everyone catches up. You have to wonder whether you're creating new fans and what you're doing for those around your circle there.
Well, from everything that we've seen and everything that we've read, and we know, of course, you have an insight in terms of how they're operating. Everything seems like they're doing it successfully by the book. Everybody's being taken care of. They have everything outlined. It's not sloppy. Everything has been first class, getting things done. We had, of course, one fighter test positive, but one fighter. And everything else has been a success.
That's been the big change
in 8 days.
Once the UFC is teaming up with the state commissions, unlike when they initially, a month ago, tried to get UFC 249 off the ground, going to tribal land in California. There was back and forth. Remember the California governor reaching out to ESPN and Disney, the TV rights holders, to sort of get that card canceled. Now UFC's doing it the right way. And maybe take a little 2-week break now. Come back every single weekend. I can get down with this.
Yeah, have you back in studio every 2 weeks. I love it. Another question that Dana White was asked, the possibility of a John Jones versus Francis Ngannou. We know they've been chirping at each other on social media. John Jones showing up in Francis Ngannou's Instagram post saying, I'll literally pick you apart. And then Dana saying, I don't know if these two guys want this fight.
Yeah, Dana basically saying, you watch those Twitter fingers, right? They sometimes speak for themselves. Look, we all want John Jones, the reigning light heavyweight champion, maybe the greatest fighter of all time, to finally move up to heavyweight, to sort of fulfill his legacy. Can he be that 2-division champion? Can he put the idea of him being the GOAT so far away that it's no longer a debate? Him calling out the toughest guy in the yard, Francis Ngannou. He may not be your champion at the moment, but he's the scariest individual alive following 4 consecutive first-round KOs. I would give. What's at stake here? Can I give a pinky? Can I give a kidney?
I don't need
You only
that.
need one kidney, right? I'll give the other one.
I don't
come
need
on.
any of that. Just make sure you get me some little tomatillo from down in Stanford,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
Little shout out.
Little shout out there.
Hey, Dana White says they don't want that fight. I want that fight. Come on, please. Yeah. That was pretty good. Good stuff there from Dana White. Great stuff as always from Brian Campbell here on CBS Sports HQ.